Assalamualaikum and hi everyone. Today our group will present about a study of phosphorus toxicity at Bukit Merah Reservoir. So let's start with a brief introduction about phosphorus. Basically, phosphorus is an element that can be found in group 15, comprises also with other elements which can be seen in the periodic table of element. So phosphorus exists at least in three allotrope forms. So what does allotrope means? Allotrope in short is form of an element with different physical and chemical properties. So in this case, three main allotrope of phosphorus named for the colors, which are white phosphorus, red phosphorus, and black phosphorus. As we know, the phosphorus is a vital nutrient element for every living being, such as humans, animals, and plants, where it is a part of DNA and RNA, the genetic code of every cell. Thus, make it very essential for cellular growth and development. In nature, phosphorus is usually in the form of phosphate, which contribute to the formation of earth crust. This means that phosphorus already exists in nature. However, nowadays, due to the demand for food, agriculture sector is responsible for the high concentration of phosphorus in nature, where it being used through the process of fertilization. So phosphorus is given to the plant as fertilizer because it is one of the main macronutrient need by a plant to grow. Recently, a few studies expected that the phosphorus will run out in the next few years. So now what is the root cause of phosphorus toxicity, particularly to the environment? Briefly, phosphorus has a high affinity for soil and sediment particles. Its natural global cycle is different than natural nitrogen cycle, which runs in a real loop between the atmosphere and other compartments of the earth. By introducing phosphorus from the mining phosphate rocks, either as a fertilizer and other products, human amplifies the imbalance in the natural phosphorus cycle. Phosphorus is frequently found as indissolved phosphorus form, including the inorganic and organic forms. The orthophosphate ion is an example of an inorganic form of phosphorus, which is a biologically available form to the plants. Although more than 90% of phosphorus in soil are found to be in plant inaccessible forms, when phosphorus attached to sediment particle, it is generally not available to be used by aquatic plant. However, various chemical and biological processes can allow the sediment phosphorus to be released back into the water. For instance, through bottom feeding rock fish such as carp can stir up bottom sediments, releasing phosphorus back into the water. Under the energy condition, which is less of a available oxygen condition, phosphorus also can be released from the sediment. The high concentration of phosphorus in environment can cause several problems. So in environment, the major impact of phosphorus toxicity is eutrophication. High concentration such as nitrogen and phosphorus that enter to the water body is one of the main causes for this problem. This could create an event within the aquatic ecosystem which is known as algae blooms. Algae bloom is very harmful to the aquatic life because it can cover the water surface and block the sunlight from reaching to the water. This will prevent the aquatic plant from producing the oxygen via photosynthesis. As a result, release of oxygen in the water will be reduced, thus causing living organisms in the aquatic ecosystem to die or decay. Consequently, the aquatic ecosystem has been disturbed, and the services we provided to the nature will not be the same. As the human depends much on the water, bodies either as food or water resources, they potentially suffer with adverse health problems due to the consumption of resources from those areas as the water bodies such as river, lake, reservoirs that have been polluted.
Hi everyone, I'm Tina here and I'll be presenting about the study area. The study area for this assignment will be Bukit Merah Reservoir, also known as BMR. It is the oldest man-made reservoir in our country. It was built in 1902 and the operation started in 1906. It is located at the stated coordinates in the state of Perak and it has four main feeder rivers which supply water to the reservoir, namely Sungai Kurau, Sungai Merah, Sungai Jelutong and Sungai Selarong. On the next slide, you can see the hydrologic map and the land use map of Bukit Merah Reservoir and its catchment area. Based on the hydrologic map, it is obvious that Sungai Kurau has the largest catchment area. As for the land use map, 46.29% of the catchment area is actually covered by forest, while 42.80% of the area are agricultural lands that mainly consist of rubber and palm oil plantations. Next, we'll be further talking about the current status of BMR. As far as I know, we have around 90 lakes and reservoirs in Malaysia. From the 90 lakes, it has been identified that 62% of them are eutrophic, while the remaining 38% of the lakes are mesotrophic, which denotes 256 and 34 lakes respectively. As for BMR, it is categorized as eutrophic and the water quality lies under class 3, according to the Department of Environment. And why is this happening at BMR? The main reason for the degradation and deterioration of water quality at BMR will be the constant land clearing and deforestation activities at the upstream region. This has further led to soil erosion in the catchment area, which causes sedimentation and siltation at the reservoir. As this process occurs for a longer period of time, water and nutrient pollution occurs in the reservoir due to the increase in nitrogen and phosphorus content. Together with natural events and environmental factors, this further accelerates the rate of eutrophication of BMR and causes eutrophication.
I will present about the behavior of phosphorus toxicity at BMR. Phosphorus is used in various applications as in fertilizers for agriculture, detergent, ingredient in livestock supplement, and pesticide. There are studies regarding the phosphorus toxicity where BMR function as a water resource for irrigation of rice cultivation purposes and domestic water supply for Korean district. There are also infrastructural developmental activities and palm oil plantation near the reservoir, and those activities had become the sources of the identified pollutants such as phosphorus, nitrogen, and others. According to a study, reservoirs with large watershed contain more phosphorus produced in and exported from the upstream than the smaller watershed. Besides, the nutrient may enter the watershed through inflows, precipitation, dry fallout, and from the sediment. It also may be removed by sedimentation or through outflows. In addition, the water flow rate may increase due to heavy rain and make the water flow capable of carrying the sediment. Rate of water flow may differ from time to time, where the left sediment will then be transported once again as the flow rate increases. Apart from that, a study by Omar et al. In 2014 explained that whenever the availability of energy is enough, soil erosion consists of two phases in which detachment of particles from soil mass and transport by the erosion agent. The example of the erosion agent are the running water and wind. Otherwise, the third phase, which is deposition, will happen if there is not enough energy. Next, modification of phosphorus depend on their possible forms according to the multi-component of ecosystems such as water, air, soil, and sedimentation. For example, total phosphorus or TP can be in dissolved and particulate form. Form of TP in water can be determined by the analytical method based where it can be differentiated by a membrane filtration. For example, colorimetric molybdenum is used in order to determine the soluble reactive phosphate that can be found in BMR. And last but not least, the final fate of the phosphorus is in the sediment where it acts as a sink for the phosphorus. Based on the study by Najib et al. In 2017, when phosphorus is introduced to the reservoir, it will accumulate in the bottom sediment. They found out that there are about 36% of TP retained in the reservoir as it is absorbed to fine sediment. The phosphorus also support the trophic status under desirable condition. The sediment is released in the overlying water and lead to eutrophication in the reservoir. However, the cycle will be continuous as the phosphorus production in a way sediment will be uplifted over geological time.
Next, the consequences of phosphorus toxicity at Bukit Merah Reservoir. Firstly, to the bottom sediment. The effect of excessive total of phosphorus loading to shallow lake is especially pronounced as it can lead to high macrophage production, which on sense can contribute significant amount of nutrient to both sediment and overlying water. Bukit Merah Reservoir is currently classified as eutrophication because phosphorus toxicity. Phosphorus will up in the sediment of lake. When it remains in the sediment is generally not available for use by algae. However, various chemical and biological processes can allow sediment phosphorus to be released back into the water. For example, bottom-feeding rockfish such as carp can stir up bottom sediment, releasing phosphorus back into the water. Secondly, to the water quality. Pure water quality in Bukit Merah Reservoir, especially cause of phosphorus toxicity, can have many unpleasant consequences. When aquatic ecosystem increase phosphorus toxicity, the phytoplankton and other photosynthetic plants grow rapidly, causing algae bloom. It can make impact to fish and other aquatic life can no longer survive, and also oxygen depletion happen when the algae or plant life die and decompose. The last one is to the organism and the surrounding environment. Water from a trophic lake and reservoir may cause health problems due to toxins secreted by various microbes, causing symptoms that range from skin irritation to pneumonia, causing a condition known as blue baby syndrome. Additionally, eutrophication favors the growth and dominance of cyanobacteria, with content toxin that can have detrimental effect on human and environmental health. This also happens on water body. It affects fishing activities. This is simply because it's become difficult to set the fishing nets in water since there are planes floating in water. It also limits the mobility of boat and other fishing vessels.
So now, let's have a look on the strategies and mitigation plans to overcome phosphorus toxicity at Bukit Merah Reservoir. The first one is the best management practices to attempt nutrient balance. In principle, the concept of nutrient balance is simple. Nutrients input to an area should be balanced as closely as possible by the nutrient outputs from that particular area. Next, the mitigation plans to overcome phosphorus toxicity should also include transport management strategies. Transport management refers to the strategies to monitor the transport of phosphorus from soil to critical areas such as fresh water bodies. The loss of phosphorus by soil runoff and erosion can be minimized by the retention of tillage and managing the crop residues, buffer strips, riparian areas, terracing, contour tillage, cover crops, and settling basins. Other strategies that can be implemented to overcome these phosphorus toxicity issues is by regular water quality monitoring program, aquatic plant management, and also a proper setup of an agency responsible for lakes and reservoir management. Apart from that, the law and legislative approach is also needed in handling this phosphorus pollution. However, several aspects of the current EQA 1974 are needed to be improved and its application need to be strengthened. The last one, these issues also require a real efforts from stakeholders, especially DOE or Department of Environmental, NAHRIM, local authorities, public universities, and also the public. With regard to the public awareness, the public needs to be educated and informed on phosphorus toxicity and contamination and how it impacts the safety of water, ecosystem, and human health.
Okay, thank you, Fatin. So, conclusion and final remarks from SI. Firstly, strategies that can be applied to overcome the problem of phosphorus toxicity in the Bukit Merah Reservoir are air quality monitoring programs that are regularly regulated, air plant management, and proper regulation of the institution responsible for lake and reservoir management. Secondly, manage P to reduce the environmental impact of runoff, increase efficiency in the use of P in agricultural systems can be used through sourcing and transportation management strategies. And then mitigation plans to address P toxicity must also determine transportation management strategies. Source and transportation control must be targeted for critical export P areas from watersheds. Lastly, in addition, legal and legislative requirements are also needed in pollution approval for this. The main federal legislative instrument governing improvements to improve quality in Malaysia is the 1974 Environmental Quality ACT or ACT 127. That's all for me. Okay, thank you everyone.